They say blood is thicker than water. But what happens when your blood tries to drown you? My parents walked into that courtroom with perfect smiles, perfect lies, perfect plan to destroy me. They wanted everything. My inheritance, my sanity, my future. But I had one piece of paper. One. And when I handed it to the judge, the entire courtroom went silent. Then sirens. Then handcuffs. I didn't just win that case. I sent my parents to federal prison. My name is Naomi. I'm 19 now, but this story starts when I was 17. Picture this. A pristine white colonial house. Manicured lawn. BMW in the driveway. My dad, Marcus Chin, ran a successful consulting firm. My mom, Patricia, was on 3 charity boards and posted inspirational quotes on Instagram every morning. We were the family everyone envied. Your parents are relationship goals. You're so lucky, Naomi. I wish my family was like yours. If only they knew. Behind our front door, every conversation was a chess match. Every dinner was an interrogation. Every achievement I had was somehow theirs. When I got into AP classes, we raised you right. When I won the science fair, our genetics. When I got accepted to college, all our sacrifices paid off. But when I made mistakes, that was all me. You're ungrateful. After everything we've done, you're lucky we don't kick you out. I learned to make myself small, invisible, perfect, until the day everything changed. My grandmother, Eleanor Chen, was nothing like my father. Where he was cold and calculating, she was warm. Where he demanded perfection, she accepted flaws. Every Sunday, I'd escape to her cottage on Maple Street. It wasn't fancy, just a 2-bedroom house with creaky floors and a garden full of tomatoes she'd never eat. But it was safe. She'd make jasmine tea, and we'd watch old detective shows. Columbo. Murder, she wrote. She loved mysteries. The killer always makes one mistake, Naomi, she'd say, pointing at the TV with her knitting needle. They get greedy. And greed makes people sloppy. One Sunday, when I was 16, she noticed the bruise on my wrist. Not a physical one, the kind that comes from having your spirit crushed daily. Your father was always difficult, she said quietly. Even as a boy. Always wanting more. Never satisfied. Why didn't you stop him? I asked. She looked at me with these sad, knowing eyes. Some people can't be stopped, sweetheart. They can only be exposed. I didn't understand what she meant then, but she was already planning. Grandma Eleanor died on a Tuesday. Heart attack in her sleep. Peaceful, they said. The funeral was perfect, of course. My parents played the grieving son and daughter-in-law beautifully. My dad even squeezed out a tear during his eulogy about family values. 3 days later, we sat in the lawyer's office for the will reading. My parents were practically vibrating with anticipation. They'd been eyeing Grandma's assets for years. Her house, her savings, her stake in Grandpa's old business that was now worth millions. The lawyer, Mr. Davidson, cleared his throat. To my son Marcus, I leave my collection of mystery novels and a reminder that some mysteries are better left unsolved. My dad's face twitched. To my daughter-in-law Patricia, I leave my china set, which like her, is beautiful but hollow. My mom's smile froze. And to my granddaughter, Naomi Eleanor Chen, I leave everything else. My home, my investments, my savings, and most importantly, the contents of safety deposit box 447 at First National Bank. She'll know when to open it. The silence was deafening. Then my mother laughed. Sharp. Bitter. There must be a mistake. No mistake, Mr. Davidson said. This will was updated 6 months ago. Witnessed, notarized, completely legal. My father stood up so fast his chair fell over. She was senile. Manipulated. This is completely valid, the lawyer interrupted. Good day. Here's what you need to understand about my parents. They didn't just want money. They needed it. See, what I didn't know yet was that their perfect life. It was a house of cards. And Grandma's inheritance wasn't just an opportunity. It was their only way out of something much, much worse. But I'm getting ahead of myself. First, they tried the nice approach. That night, they sat me down in the living room. My mom had even baked cookies, chocolate chip, my favorite from when I was 7. Sweetheart, my dad started, using the voice he reserved for clients. We need to talk about Grandma's will. Okay, I said carefully. You're only 17. Managing that kind of money, that property, it's a huge responsibility. My mom nodded, reaching for my hand. We just want what's best for you. Maybe you could sign it over to us for safekeeping? Until you're older. I pulled my hand back. I think Grandma wanted me to have it. The temperature in the room dropped 10 degrees. Don't be selfish, Naomi, my mother hissed, her mask slipping. We're your parents. We've sacrificed everything for you. What sacrifices? I asked quietly. My father slammed his hand on the coffee table. Everything. The private schools, the tutors, the opportunities. That I never asked for, I interrupted. That were for your image, not me. My mother stood up, cookies forgotten. You ungrateful little Patricia. My father's voice was ice. Not yet. Not yet. Those 2 words should have warned me what was coming. I waited 2 weeks before going to the bank. Something in Grandma's letter made me cautious. She'll know when to open it. When I finally did, my hands were shaking. Inside the box, 3 things. First, a letter in Grandma's handwriting. My dearest Naomi, if you're reading this, they've already shown their true colors. In this box is everything you need to protect yourself. Your father isn't who he pretends to be. Neither is your mother. Be brave. Be smart. And remember what Columbo always said, let them talk. The guilty always talk too much. All my love. Grandma. Second, a USB drive labeled insurance. Third, a manila folder with bank statements, emails, and photos that made my blood run cold. My parents weren't just bad people. They were criminals. The USB drive contained 7 years of evidence. My father's consulting firm? It was a front. He'd been embezzling money from clients, creating fake invoices, setting up shell companies. But here's the sick part. He'd been doing it through my grandmother's business connections, using her reputation as cover. My mother? She ran those charity boards, all right, but the donations, they were going into offshore accounts, cancer research, children's hospitals, homeless shelters, all of it stolen. And the photos, they were from security cameras at Grandma's house. My parents sneaking in, going through her papers, my mom putting something in Grandma's tea. The timestamp was 3 days before she died. My hands shook as I read the toxicology report Grandma had somehow gotten. Elevated levels of digitalis detected, consistent with gradual poisoning. They hadn't just wanted her money. They'd killed her for it. I was still processing everything when the court summons arrived. My parents were suing me for emotional manipulation of a vulnerable elderly person, fraud, mental incompetence, undue influence. They wanted everything transferred to them immediately, plus damages for emotional distress. Their lawyer had attached a thick folder of evidence, photos of me at therapy, yes, they'd followed me, twisted text messages, and even a psychiatric evaluation they'd somehow gotten a doctor to sign without ever meeting me. The hearing was in 2 weeks. I had 2 weeks to decide, run, surrender, or fight. I chose option 4. Set a trap. I couldn't trust anyone. My parents had connections everywhere. Judges, lawyers, police. So I did what Grandma taught me. I watched detective shows. And I learned 3 things. Never reveal your evidence early. Let the guilty party lie on record. Always have a backup plan. I made copies of everything. Sent one set to a safety deposit box in another state. Uploaded another to a cloud server with a dead man switch. If I didn't log in every 48 hours, it would automatically send to the FBI, IRS, and every major news outlet. Then I did something that probably seems crazy. I hired their lawyer's investigator. The same one they'd used to follow me. I told him I wanted to make peace with my parents. That I needed to know what they were planning so I could give them what they wanted without a fight. He bought it. Or maybe he just liked getting paid twice. Either way, I learned their entire strategy. They were going to claim I'd been slowly poisoning Grandma to get the inheritance. They were going to use my therapy records against me. They were going to paint me as a dangerous, unstable teenager who needed to be institutionalized. The irony wasn't lost on me. Here's the real twist. I could have just sent everything to the police right then. Could have ended it all with one email. But I needed something more. I needed them to confess. On record. In front of witnesses. Because here's what you would do. Would you wait for the perfect moment to destroy the people who killed your grandmother? Or would you just turn them in immediately? I knew my choice could backfire. If the judge was in their pocket, if their lies were believed, I could lose everything. But I had to try. For Grandma. The courtroom was packed. My parents had made sure of that. They'd invited their country club friends, their business associates, even some reporters. They wanted witnesses to my humiliation. They got witnesses, all right, just not to what they expected. My mother wore a black dress, like she was still in mourning. My father had his CEO power suit. They held hands as they walked in, the picture of concerned parents. Their lawyer, Mr. Harrison, was known for destroying people on the stand. 6 feet tall, silver hair, the kind of voice that made lies sound like gospel. I sat alone at my table. No lawyer. I couldn't afford one, and legal aid had mysteriously lost my application. Judge Williams looked annoyed before we even started. Miss Chen, you're representing yourself?
Yes, Your Honor.
He sighed. Let's proceed. Mr. Harrison painted a masterpiece of deception. According to him, I was a troubled teen who had manipulated my grandmother, isolated her from family, and possibly contributed to her death. He had witnesses, family friends who testified they'd seen me acting strangely at family gatherings. A teacher who confirmed I'd been in therapy. Even a pharmacist who noted I'd picked up Grandma's heart medication. This young woman, Harrison declared, systematically destroyed a family for greed. She turned a grandmother against her own son. And now she refuses to return what rightfully belongs to her parents. My mother cried on cue. My father stared at me with disappointed eyes. The crowd murmured sympathetically. Judge Williams looked at me. Miss Chen, do you have anything to say? This was it. I stood up slowly. Your Honor, I have one piece of evidence. May I approach? He nodded, looking bored. I pulled out a single sheet of paper from my bag, but I didn't hand it to him yet. Mr. Harrison, you said I isolated my grandmother from family? That's correct. You said I manipulated her? Obviously. You said I possibly contributed to her death? The evidence suggests. Would it surprise you to know my grandmother hired a private investigator 6 months before she died? The room went quiet. Harrison laughed. That's ridiculous. You're making things up now. I handed the paper to Judge Williams. This is a signed affidavit from that investigator, along with his license number and contact information. He's actually sitting in the back row right now. Everyone turned. A man in a baseball cap gave a small wave. Judge Williams read the paper. His expression changed from bored to alert. Mr. Harrison, approach. Mr. and Mrs. Chen, you too. My parents looked confused but confident as they approached the bench. Judge Williams showed them the paper. This affidavit states that Eleanor Chen hired Mr. James Powell to investigate suspected elder abuse and financial fraud. It also states that all evidence was submitted to federal authorities 2 weeks ago. My mother's face went white. That's impossible. She caught herself. I mean, that's obviously fabricated. Judge Williams leaned forward. Mrs. Chen, are you saying you were unaware of any federal investigation? Of course I'm unaware. There's nothing to investigate. We've done nothing wrong. Then you won't mind if I call the federal prosecutor who's been sitting in my chambers watching this proceeding on closed circuit? The door to the judge's chambers opened. A woman in a black suit walked out, holding a badge. Agent Sarah Coleman, FBI Financial Crimes Division. Mr. and Mrs. Chen, you're under arrest for embezzlement, money laundering, tax evasion, and suspected murder. My father tried to run. He made it 3 steps before court security stopped him. My mother screamed. She set us up. This is entrapment.
That little. Mrs. Chen, Agent Coleman interrupted, you just confessed to knowing about an investigation you claimed didn't exist.
You might want to stop talking. As they were being handcuffed, my mother looked at me with pure hatred.
You destroyed our family.
I stood up straighter than I had in years.
No.
You destroyed our family the day you decided money was worth more than love. Grandma knew. She documented everything. Every forged signature, every stolen donation, every fake invoice. My father finally spoke, his voice broken. The toxicology report. She knew? She knew you were poisoning her. She changed her will, hired an investigator, and prepared everything. She died knowing justice would come.
But she didn't turn us in, he said desperately.
That means she still loved. She left that choice to me, I interrupted, to see if you'd show any remorse, any love for your daughter.
Instead, you tried to destroy me too.
The trial was a sensation. Perfect parents exposed as killers. Charity fraud rocks community. Teen daughter brings down criminal parents. My father got 25 years. My mother got 20. They found $3.7 million in stolen funds. All the charity money was recovered and donated properly, in Grandma's name. I still live in her cottage on Maple Street. I kept her tomato garden, even though I don't really like tomatoes. I watch her detective shows. Sometimes I even solve the mystery before the TV detective does. Her mystery novels are on my shelf, including the one she bookmarked but never finished, Murder in the Family. I finished it for her. The killer was the son. People ask me if I regret it. Sending my parents to prison. Being alone at 19. Losing my family. But here's what they don't understand. I didn't lose my family that day in court. I lost them years ago, to greed, to image, to the lie that blood means loyalty. Grandma taught me the truth. Family isn't about DNA. It's about who shows up when you're broken, who fights for you when you can't fight for yourself, who loves you without a price tag. She was my family. And in that safety deposit box, along with the evidence, she left me one more thing. A photo of us at her kitchen table, both laughing at something on TV. On the back, in her shaky handwriting, my real family.
Always.
The investigator, James Powell? He still sends me Christmas cards. He told me something that stuck with me. Your grandmother was the smartest client I ever had. She could have destroyed them any time, but she waited. She wanted to give them one last chance to choose you over money. They failed that test. But I passed mine. I chose truth over comfort, justice over family secrets, Grandma's legacy over my parents' lies. Some nights I wonder who they would have been if they'd made different choices. If they'd loved me more than money. If they'd seen me as a daughter instead of an investment. But wondering doesn't change anything. They made their choice the day they put poison in an old woman's tea.
And I made mine the day I handed that paper to the judge.
More stories like this. Stories about betrayal, justice, and the truth nobody wants to hear? Hit subscribe. Because some family secrets, they're worth exposing.